So how many non-Estonian speakers we have here? Okay, you know, so I was assuming that, and that's why Okay, so let's get started. I wanted to talk to you about red teaming today, and why you need it badly, desperately. Just a quick background about Clarified security is that the back row will hopefully Estonia happens to be a nice place to hack things because we need all those key things. Just cram in, that's all we have. I mean, as long as we have a bucket of fresh air.
Mikä otteeksi tuolla on?
Because we're extra. So out of volume, most of the things we do are stuff in the web layer. We set up your own web applications from banking, research, and these kind of things. This is where we really focus, go deep, and try to find all vulnerabilities. And it is important because these solutions are used by a lot of users, and anyone can dig around and find something that at least causes bad PR. But it's not rare to buy the global security features. So this web layer is something that we like the most, or at least by volume. And the main thing with security is that the devil is in details. And we've been doing this under Clarified security since 2011. So validating this IT wonders here locally. So just a quick roundup. It's all on one slide, what we do. So pen testing, hands-on security trainings. We, as with most IT people, our human interface is a little bit broken. So we like to talk to techies, and decision makers and managers are not our thing really necessarily. So we have a couple of web security related trainings because when we break things, that creates demands elsewhere. Secure logging and web security. And then we have hands-on hacking series training. Hands-on hacking essentials, follow up to this course that we'll also deliver in captured flag format. So those who already are kind of turning unconscious here because of the lack of air or something, right after I finish, you have 5 minutes to rush to Lambda room. That's where James and Tavi, my red teamers, are going to do a bit of this waifu-based hacking with you, so you can go and hack. And the new training, and actually this is one of the things that we're creating so that you would be ready, enough customers for us for red teaming, so that you would know how to hunt the hacker or how to do threat. Okay, someone found the hacker. So hunt the hacker course should be ready in a few months, and you're welcome to come and check it out once we announce it. So James has put a lot of work into this and Fabio as well, so when you go to this hacking workshop, you can ask them about these things as well. Regarding red teaming, we've been doing this for a long time, actually longer than our current company, and lock shields is the big thing. So we have to squeeze in somehow, let's be friendly. So we do red teaming at a large scale, and people in my company usually form some of the key people in this exercise, and I have to run it. So for the next exercise, I'm going to hand the ball over to Tavi, and he's going to be my deputy at least, and learn a trade how to run the big team of 60+ hackers. And there we usually have to entertain 20-something blue teams. So 2 days of hacking with the resource about 60-something people. And then you have to be able to direct the eagerness and skill set of all the hackers towards meaningful goals. So that's like very intensive thing. We also do CRX exercises, cyber age exercises, mostly for Estonian MOD. We are creating content or delivering content for other NATO exercises like cyber collisions and civics. But to a degree, all these exercises and things are artificial, and the kind of red teaming that we would like to do for you is a little bit different. Anyhow, this was the announcement. Remember, if you're already suffocating, 5 minutes after I finish, you can run to Thomas and James' workshop. It lasts about 2+ hours. Everyone gets to hack, everyone wins. Something at least. So James was so nice to kind of gouge out some nice quotes, what goes along with red teaming. So actually, the more you prepare, the more ready you are when the certain substance hits the fan. Yeah, like if you want to be good at something, you need a very good sparring partner. So that's why it doesn't make sense to wait until things happen, but to actually find a nice sparring partner to enhance your own skills. So red teaming, what is it? So it's hopefully skillful people doing that stuff for you, and they are acting like real hackers. And they should have some objectives. The necessary part is that you don't limit them down too much. Just like in lock shield exercise, red teaming, we have attack campaigns and objectives. Certain things that I want my teams to achieve, and there's many ways to get there. And yes, we use the same tools, tactics, and procedures as real hackers would do. And the format of red teaming is more fun, I believe, for both sides because it gives a lot of freedom to achieve the goals, and at the same time, if we do it on production, on your organization, you actually learn on your own environment and you train your own people, and this skill set, this experience stays with you. And naturally, all of this doesn't have to be constrained to cyber only. In our business model, we're mostly comfortable with remote delivery, but in later on iterations, physical and other aspects can be involved as well. So why to have it? Well, just because you want to. You want to know, hopefully, by choosing this red pill. But if oftentimes we hear that, hey, maybe we should not do these kind of things because we know we're not ready. But maybe you want to know how not ready you are. And like I mentioned earlier, your staff gets experience, and I believe this is the best thing by playing against a live adversary, and also with the ability to compare the notes afterwards. So if you get attacked by someone, you don't know what they did. You have your own guessworks, and maybe you didn't notice the real stuff. Maybe you noticed only the really lame stuff. So with red teaming, you can actually sit down afterwards, look at the report, have face-to-face meetings, or have attacks rate played back to you so you can fine-tune your equipment, procedures, etc. And red teaming usually is meant to be continuous. Yes, in exercise format, it's more like entertainment, providing some benchmark. But in real life, you want to raise the bar of your security posture. So with every engagement, hopefully you get highlighted a bunch of issues that usually are the paths of least resistance to steal your crown jewels, for example, to disrupt your business, proof that you need maybe for internal buy-in, because you, in some department, at some middle level, maybe you understand what risks and what issues you're facing, but you need the higher up management buy-in, or it could be vice versa, that C-level people want to know how well the IT people are actually ready to handle those kind of things. And the iterations can be done in many ways, yeah, one of these things is that if you replay successful attack phases, you can slow everything down and teach your junior staff or your help desk what is their role in this kind of incident, what should be noticed at this threat hunting level, and when do we hand it over to incident response level, for example. And it's not only people, but it's also fine-tuning your detection and response, in the sense that I assume through Santa Monica you buy all kinds of fancy boxes, and maybe you tune it to best practices, but you don't really know what it gives you. So to maximize the capabilities of this equipment and alerts these detection systems can give you, you may want to take the same attack, run it many times, fine-tune it, make it harder to detect, but the red team will play the harder, and you still see if you can catch us. So it gives this very interactive possibility as well. In a first iteration, usually you don't want as much interaction, but after reviewing the initial results, you may want to be very interactive and scrub the same scenario multiple times. And just like with pen testing, with red teaming also, the follow-up iteration can validate if you've done if you fixed your procedures, if your people can alert, can see these alerts, or if the game gets tougher, what else you're not seeing yet. Anyhow, we don't have full proof, but we theorize that this should be at least more effective, and also should be cheaper way to learn how to handle incidents before the real attackers come. So there are firm believers of learning on a job, but there you have to be a very fast learner, and you don't get to compare the notes. So how to run the red teaming against your organization? First iteration would be nice to do with minimal knowledge. What it means is that, let's say, only executive level people in a company know, just few people, or it can be IT or security, it depends who in the organization actually comes about ordering this engagement. But just like real attackers, they don't announce themselves. And sometimes one way to really easily control this knowledge, even if a word spreads out, what can be done is that the initial engagement takes over quite a few months. If you know that someone was going to hack you within 2, 3, 4 months periods, how long are you going to stay alert? So you can stand up yourself for a while, but then you have to go to business as normal. So minimum knowledge, both the attackers, and also minimum knowledge internally, what you're facing, so you can get maximum benefits out of like what's the low-hanging fruit and what exactly is coming at you. I mentioned objectives earlier, so achieving objectives, and as long as the rules of engagement don't restrict that, you cannot, let's say, do physical things that, or you're not fully allowed to do full-scale social engineering, that you can constrain yourself to certain departments only. But within the constraints, everything should go. And the objective should be what we're after, not just, okay, you need to get through a firewall this way, or you have to break this specific system. There are many ways in, and something that you may not even know about. And the whole purpose of this red teaming is to do it against your real production's live environments. With pen testing, we usually prefer to do testing in test environments because you need to really go really deep and you, by accident, can be disruptive. But red team engagements, they make sense on live environments within reasonable constraints, and that's where you get real life results. Key persons, and I mentioned this, that if you keep engagement window a couple of months, then most likely you get bored and you stand down to your normal business as usual security posture. It's like with these hands-on acting trainings we have. How many of you have been to some of our hands-on acting trainings? Oh, quite a lot of people. So usually the feedback we get is like, wow, this was so great, I'm going to go back to work, I'll set up my own lab and I'll start practicing this. And then we see you in the next training and I ask, so how much do you practice? Oh, we have work to do. So it's like with red team, like, hey, we're going to hack you soon, and then we come around in 2 months and you don't even remember that you promised to hack you. Yeah, and multiple iterations really help to get to the point. So the initial engagement doesn't have to be that deep. So let's say 2-3 man-weeks effort is reasonable for first round because you have to do quite a lot of open source intelligence gathering, a lot of homework and mapping of potential attack vectors, and then go ahead and try them all. And there's a lot of trial and error. And at the same time, you have to stay fairly silent because you don't want to get caught until you get your objectives. A lot of people actually ask, so hey, Mehis, if your guys will just rip us apart and own us and we don't even see it, is it a waste of money? Not really, at least you know that you can be hacked that badly. But actually the point is that in this kind of cases, also with cyber exercises, we'll either slow down and at the same time become more noisy. So once we achieve objectives, we will start creating artifacts and noise that either you can notice during the engagement or is part of a delivery that after we finish the engagement will give you all the artifacts that you can start scrubbing with your log management, correlation tools, and so to learn to notice us even after engagement. Yeah, and oops. There's some ways to cheat the system a little bit. So you can choose a starting point. So oftentimes, actually, people say, and you know, hopefully most of you kind of agree that if there's will and some resources, everyone can get owned. And so it's sometimes quite reasonable to start from assumed internal foothold, so that someone has a foothold in one of your network segments, and you start from there. There you can then skip all the social engineering parts or external attacks. But it also depends, like who needs less and most, or what are your crown jewels that are the objectives, maybe the highest objectives for engagements. And or specific offensive activity can be in focus, so that you, for example, if you are a development company and source code or huge pieces of compiled data or databases are the most important things, and most definitely data exfiltrations, they are quite noisy things. But if you can stop them in an early phase, then you stand up your security posture significantly. So this is something that, okay, we can start from assumed foothold. We have foothold in a couple of network segments. We try to get to the important data, and then we take some example data and try to exfiltrate, and we play this through until you get good at this stopping exfiltrations or various techniques. So if you think that you have DNS request-based exfiltration, ICMP-based exfiltration covered, then it needs to be verified. And actually this is what, for example, banking sector often asks is, hey, we're buying this fancy box, it costs 5-6 digits number, but we'd like to know that is the advertisement all good. So actually it's one of those places, if there's enough time, or if you already have it in place, I've seen so many organizations that have these fancy black boxes in place, and it generates data, or it logs huge amount of data, logs, and no one uses them. So how about start making use of these things, and we can help to validate and squeeze the maximum out of these fancy products that could do a lot of things for you, but you just don't know how to squeeze the maximum out of them, or don't have a reference data to compare against. So deliverables, definitely executive summary, and either over a video conference or face to face, it's good to actually talk them through, because internally you may have totally different perception of some of the things that we achieve. This is a good basis to discuss, okay, what are the priorities to fix? And if we're going to go for a next iteration, what will be the things we would like to focus then? Usually, in a first iteration, you grab a lot of low-hanging fruits, sometimes surprising ways, how easy it could compromise. It could be, mitigation could be security awareness, some technology in place, some procedures, and people training on getting eyes on your network, and also stopping things, so incident response. This is like also with our pen testing, that sweet points in executive summary and then full detailed report. With red teaming, it makes sense more to put in narrative style, so that to start from the beginning, like in Estonia we have this Hakkaja book, however, to start from the beginning how the hell everything happened. So with all the details and artifacts for you to go back, or some kind of chronological timeline as well of when what happened, and did your guys notice it. One of the things that I've noticed with bigger companies, especially, for example, they come to our hands-on hacking courses, it's a place where we create synergy, in a sense that if it's a big company, they work in silos. They have network guys, they have firewall guys, they have some guys that deal with web stuff. They don't talk to each other. They're all very busy, and they only talk to each other when they really need to. But when they are together in a class where they do the hacking together, they start seeing the big picture and see, hey, maybe we should, talk to each other, sync our data, have some correlation. So actually, based on a report, these various departments could also have some tasks like, hey, this thing happened. Did you notice it at your firewall level? Did hosting guys notice something? What did the desktop maintenance guys see? Etc., etc. Of course, we give our best suggestions to fixing things up. And I talked about artifacts, technical indicators, some signatures perhaps, or information on the tools that we used. For example, the beauty of antivirus bypassing in Lockshed's exercise is basically we are able to bypass almost any antivirus, and especially if we know what antivirus the teams are using, usually nations have some preferences, then it becomes easy. So we can give you these artifacts that, okay, we used this tool and we packaged our bypassing techniques this way, learn how to work with it. And the outcome could be that you cannot stop the attacker from compromising and bypassing, and most likely where you catch them is when they become noisy, or they stumble, they make mistakes, something happens, anomaly. And then it's catch-up time. Is it enough for you to know, did you notice the bad guys early enough, and can you eradicate them? Can you eradicate them fully? Because one thing in red teaming we're sure to do is to put some sleeper agents in, so that if we get caught in one place, we have ways to continue towards our objective because we're not done yet. And I believe this part is pretty good, really, to go down to technical level to start fixing things, is that we will replay these attacks, especially those that were successful, so that you can train your staff, you can train your tools, have, again, comparing these notes at very technical level by actually doing it. So some of the things that need to be talked about when you actually consider red teaming. How many of you have actually taken penetration testing? Hopefully more familiar topic. So few people have taken pen testing. Okay. Well, maybe you need pen testing first. Now, let's go. James wants red teaming. It's more exciting. So the thing with pen testing, because mostly we cover web applications, mobile applications. The scoping is very easy. You have one clear system. You have a lot of users. Let's say if it's a web shop or banking application, you have thousands of users, and anyone can have an account. If we talk about the Estonian government IT solutions, then everyone can log in with their ID card, mobile ID. Everyone has an account. Everyone can start poking around. And if they collude with their friend, then they can start colluding. Okay, can I see your data, or you can see my data, or trigger my functionality? So actually, there's nothing you need in terms of internal knowledge to already learn quite a lot of bad things, and then once you learn the tricks, you capitalize on them somehow. But this kind of pen testing of applications for us is very easy. If you ask me a post, I'll watch up and I can give you a reasonable amount of work that it will take. If it comes to network pen testing, for example, it's much more complicated because I would need to know how many IPs, how many ports, what kind of services you have. And usually the negotiations will die there somewhere. Because either we have to do a bunch of work to map all this information, and then you say, oh crap, that costs too much, and then we narrow it down. So let's skip all that, the whole network pen testing. Yes, we can do it, but let's skip it and do red teaming. Because there, we can choose, should we run through a firewall or actually bypass the whole thing? We'll do a client-side attack. We'll send your users a link or some phishing or email, and boom, on a machine. And then we start spreading internally. I don't have to pen test your applications. I don't have to, externally break into anything, unless a big gaping hole is right there. So, and with red teaming, we need to talk your risks, at least how much you can perceive, or we can take fairly generic approach. If you have in mind what kind of attackers should we be emulating, I mean, is it competition? If competition is that tough, is it someone who's after theft, intellectual property, or is it money? And then what would the attacker objectives? They come from risks and attacker type in some ways also. And then part of it is also what we can and cannot, what can we do to prove it. So sometimes we're told, okay, in the first round, let's not go too deep. We stop at a certain place. So, for example, we don't fully screw up your Active Directory, but we stop at having admin rights in Active Directory and just simple proof of that. Maybe that's enough. It has to be agreed and fairly clear who knows, who not, because there's two things. It shouldn't spread too far. But also, even with pen tests, the issue is that whenever we pen test someone, we tell them what IP addresses we are using. It's all coordinated, and if something happens, it still happens so that they say, hey, but these Clarified guys are pen testing us, it must be them. It's not always us causing things that are not intended, so, there are real attackers doing their own things at the same time too, or someone just screwed up something, so there has to be this clear information who are your authorized threat actors and how to exclude us, or if something, someone panics and they need to be calmed down. That okay, yes. So there has to be both communication channel and knowledge, like who, what kind of like plans should be internally to calm people down, or if things go a little bit south. Time period, I said that 2-3 months probably is a good window, because if we say, hey, we have 2 weeks of time, we have to do this engagement in that time. This is where if anyone learns of it, or everyone, because we would have to act fast, we spook people, and then we don't get real results. So not knowing when you're going to be attacked is actually a good measurement. What's your normal security posture? Yeah, there's always a budget issue, so let's measure it in time. Usually first round, 2-3 man weeks is a good effort. And then follow-up iterations can be just 1 man week, or it can be 2 man weeks of effort to either validate certain things or to go further. What's the objective going to be of the next follow-up iterations? And yeah, the engagement context. So this is the communication channel, and this is kind of responsibility channel. And constraints, always there are some rules of engagement. The new training in about 10 minutes, and ranking workshop. And now it's questions time. Who wants to be the first red teaming candidate? No hands. Okay. Some people in the audience who are already engaged in talking, they're not showing hands, so what's going on? Any questions? Has anyone taken this kind of red teaming engagement, or at least in exercises they have seen red teaming? Okay, so at least exercises. Okay. So many people showed up and no questions.
Can you go back a few slides?
Yeah.
The prerequisites of
Requisites? There's none.
or the first step, or, yes, that one.
Okay.
That's the live environment.
Yes.
Isn't the whole point of preventing weaknesses in live environments? Have you done anything on test environments?
Well, exercises usually happen in artificial environments, and a lot of penetration testing, special applications that happen on test environments. This is what we normally do. However, if you actually want to compare yourself, real attacks, real attackers, and what to do when, how does your staff behave, your tools, are they even useful for us, then you need to do it in production. It doesn't mean that you have to disrupt the production, but it has to be played on real people, real systems, to get the maximum value. And for example, some of the things we've been doing is that we've been out consulting entities that do their own red teaming against the government agency doing it against many other government organizations, for example. And it's surprising how much of the knowledge that you can take from exercises from red teaming you can transfer to real life. And people tend to do the same stupid mistakes that you see in this testimony. So, and the fact is that you don't know until we do it on production. Real thing. Come on, don't be scared.
Give us a good story.
Give us a good story. Regarding the red teaming? James, you got one?
Well, people think that password managers are very secure, but for instance, it's happened that you can keylog your computer and find out the password of your password manager, and you can roam around in the network using your own passwords for various internal accounts. It's something you can do.
So actually some of these things that to help to understand these topics. That's one of the reasons why we have all those hands-on hacking trainings, and we are creating now this Hunt the Hacker kind of course. Is one, if people are in the hacker shoes, they start appreciating both how easy the hacking can be and how useful the tools are, but also what are the bottlenecks to the hackers. So sometimes if you need to escalate, you get into a system, but you need to escalate the privileges, there's only so many ways to do it. And if you as a defender understand what are these ways to stop it or notice the attacker at escalation level, then it stops a lot of shows already. Bad password management is exactly one of those things that when we went out to do coaching of red teaming, the organization that was running their own red teaming, it was the attackers in that organization even didn't come to the realization how easy or what kind of connections to make in how people behave in administrative things.
Going back to live environment as well, because in the test environment, you're going to have real users who are using their passwords, random files and shares, and caching their password in the cloud. So it has to be live environment.
The beauty of production and real life environments is that they're polluted with all kinds of things that you don't even think that the computer should know about. All your browsing histories, all your passwords and password usages. So it's a wealth of information that you can get from production systems, and with the help of this, how far you can get. Of course, this red teaming is more for entities that have a lot of usually are at a certain stage. So they have some eyes on. They can see the activities happening in their own. They're logging things, they're actually correlating things. But it doesn't matter that, it doesn't mean that there's a restriction that you cannot do it earlier. That's one of the reasons why we're creating this Hunt the Hacker course, that we introduce free tools. Most of them are pre-configured, and we show you how to catch the hackers, how to observe them inside the memory of workstations and servers, for example, how to see them from a firewall and network logs and multiple other places, and some of the outlying things that jump out from attacker activity. And you all have a bunch of systems that are supposed to catch bad guys, but they don't necessarily know how to use them or not use them on a daily basis. So a reminder here that, just a reminder, 5 minutes to transfer to a hacking workshop for those that want. Your question?
Yeah, the question is, have you had, have you been hacking a network where Santa Monica is managing the network? So where you are against Santa Monica and you have successfully penetrated?
I cannot comment on that. We have. That's all I comment. It's actually in our business, we often get these questions like, hey, I heard that you've done pen testing at this company, how did it look? Well, go and ask them. Go and ask them. So, and with being these organizations, I recommend that people actually spread the knowledge. These reports, the cool things sometimes we notice, we have evolved with them. Why don't you all have it internal as well? So sharing these, some of these embarrassing things, how someone has screwed up, it's such a great learning tool. This should be shared inside. But naturally, it can't be shared immediately with external people. So I will be staying here and taking red teaming orders. After